It's the Golden State Warriors 24-25 season review. So let's review the Golden State Warriors 24-25 season. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and yeah, my English is so good. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free. We are available, of course, on all platforms, so double bang, give a thumb, leave a comment. 3 games of the NBA Finals are done, and I'm recording this before Game 3 is over, so I don't know who won. Good luck to that team, who's now 2-1 up. We're here talking about the Golden State Warriors live draft show, Wednesday, 25th of June. Remember that, 8 p.m. Eastern. Mock draft 3.0 should be coming today. Also, stay tuned to that. That's why you subscribe, so you don't miss all those things. I'm recording this on International Falafel Day, even though you might be listening to it when it's not International Falafel Day, but that doesn't mean that today is not a good day to have a falafel. So go and get your falafels on. Warriors, we're talking about the over 27s in the Golden State squad. The show later today or tomorrow, probably tomorrow actually, we'll be talking about the under 27s on this team. Let's take a look at a little bit of their situation. They finished 48 and 34. Obviously, they were in some trouble early on in the season, made the big swing for James Butler III. They bring in General Soreness, they send out Andy Wiggins, they send out their first round pick, which leaves them with pick number 41 only, which they got from the Heat. They are in a situation, obviously, where they are very old. They are in a situation where they've got decisions to make on some free agents, and they're in a situation where, is it enough? They did win their first round playoff series against the Rockets, got done by the Warriors, by the Wolves in round 2. And then we have a look at what their off-season shapes up to be. And you'll see as we talk about some of these over 27s that they got guys that were like the over 37s, like close enough to it anyway. And that is where we're going to run into some problems, I think, with this squad. Trayce Jackson-Davis, who I thought had a chance to play a pretty sizable role this season as the starting center, didn't. Barely played and was out of the rotation. He's actually fully non-guaranteed for this season. I'd be very shocked if they didn't guarantee that contract fully and bring him back, even if it's just to be included in some part of a trade. But I think we saw the limitations of Jackson Davis, which is why I didn't like him as a draft prospect, as an older guy who was undersized and I wasn't really sure how he fit. As a rookie, he was pretty solid. And then, realistically, he became a backup big at best in year 2. So I do think they'll bring him back, but yeah, I would say that it's quite disappointing as a season. We've got these 2 guys who are also potentially fully non-guaranteed, but they've also got team options. So an interesting contract structure for both Quinton Post and Guy Santos. So it's a $2 million contract for Post, 2.2 for Santos. So they can decline their team option and make them free agents, or they can pick up their team option and then they still sit as non-guaranteed anyway. So they've got the team option / non-guarantee on both their deals. Post, as a late second round pick who wasn't signed until really late in the process because the Warriors were pushed right up against the apron and they needed the space to be able to do that, and they had him as a 2-way and then converted him. He started games. And he was honestly, literally, and this is not a joke, one of the best shooting big men, shooting 7-foot centers as a rookie of all time. The volume and the percentage, unbelievable. Santos is a sort of pesky forward wing sort of a player who's okay, but we're a couple of years in here, hasn't really taken gigantic steps forward. I still think he's probably going to get picked up. I'm certain Post will get guaranteed and he'll be a major part of the rotation. Santos, a little bit of a different story. The real interesting stuff comes on their restricted free agents, because Taron Armstrong is a restricted free agent. And you'd be like, you got me, Josh. And then you'll be like, Taron Armstrong, really? Is that a real player? Is he actually a real guy? Of course he's real. You're racist. He's Australian. And he's on a 2-way contract. He signed really late in the year for the Warriors. He's restricted. The big one, of course, is the bucket, John Kuminga, who style of play did not align with Steve Kerr ever. The front office selected him. Steve Kerr doesn't like what he does. I would say that Kuminga made improvements through his 4 years in Golden State, but definitely still is out there where you go, bro, what are you doing? Can you do something that makes sense on offense? Can you do something that makes sense on defense? Any chance of shooting? And then we got the little wrinkle chucked in at the end, because in the playoffs, where he was out of the rotation, he came in and actually started playing really well. So now what? Is a team going to give him $25 million a year? I think it's possible, but who's got the space for it? Detroit, maybe. I don't love the fit of him in Detroit. Brooklyn, that's the only other team. Does the Warriors wait until someone offers him something and then matches it? For what reason? I don't know. Kuminga is an interesting fantasy player if he gets 30 plus minutes and 24 usage on a team. And I thought there might be a chance of him doing that this season. It didn't eventuate. So, given the paucity of the market, I don't know what options he has. Brooklyn's going to need to come hard and heavy, and then we'll see what Golden State does with that. Because in order to be able to offer someone that big sort of a contract, you need to have the cap space. And teams don't have it. It's literally Brooklyn and maybe Detroit. Unless you're working on sign and trades deals. That's the only other way it works. So it's a weird spot. Pat Spencer, also a restricted free agent who at times was playing minutes where you go, Pat, who's 61? Number 61, who's this guy? Lacrosse legend Pat Spencer. I don't like him as much as I like his brother Cam. But he should be brought back. In the unrestricted guys, a couple of old veterans here. Gaz Payton, the Doctor, and Kevon Looney, who somehow is both simultaneously 38 years old and apparently still under 30. But they're both unrestricted. I would imagine they would try to bring both of those guys back, but we know there are limitations in what they're able to do. And then, Kevin Knox was on this team and Braxton Key. Kevin Knox and Braxton Key. The back end of this Warriors roster, it's a little on the iffy side. We'll put it that way. But obviously with Key and Knox and Armstrong and Spencer, who knows whether those guys even remain, because their value is concentrated in the top guys. And that will bring us to talk about the top guy. It is, of course, Steph Curry, one of the greatest players of all time. You can argue whether he's the best point guard of all time, whatever. I don't need to get into that debate. I thought that we would see a level of decline from Steph this season. And I guess we did, but also we didn't. He's 37. He had a 30 usage. He was the 7th ranked player, according to Durant, all season. He was 29th in points leagues. And that happens with Steph often, is the difference between his points league value and his category league value is pretty stark. So he is probably not someone you would care about in round 2 for points leagues. You'll also notice that he was 16th before the trade deadline and 5th after it for category leagues, the Jimmy Butler impact. At some point, Steph is going to have a level of decline that is larger than this. Now, my thing with Steph in the offseason is, I'm pretty sure when I did my projections, he came out as 7th. So that's a W for me. But I didn't want to take him there because I was like, okay, we're going to have the two competing things here with Steph. He is going to see more usage. Clay was gone. Right? He was going to see more usage, and he might put up the biggest usage season he has in 4 or 5 years. But I worried that all that excess load on his body would cause more injuries, and there is the chance at his age that we get a decline in some of the production, and he ends up as the 16th best player. Well, one thing was true. We got the big usage, 30 usage. He played 70 games. He didn't really get worn down at all. He only played 32 minutes. And Butler arriving did help him. He averaged 24 points with 4.5 threes, 6 assists and 1 steal. 45, 93, 40%. And 40% is great shooting. For Steph, it's okay. You'll also notice that his DPM and drip delta right in the middle, which is about right. So he is holding steady somehow at this age. Still, really high level of offensive load, 98th percentile. Also, you'll notice 88th in time on ball. So they were able to reduce some of that load in terms of how often he's running things with Draymond and Jimmy there, which is perfect for extending some of this value for Steph moving forward. Now, if you're in dynasty formats, anyone whose age starts with is 36, 37, you have no value in that long term. And an injury can end things like that. We talked about it with Damian Lillard in the Bucks show earlier or yesterday. If Steph suffers a serious injury, then it's done. He's never a first round or second round guy again. We hope that doesn't happen, of course. He was amazing this season. Will he probably project out as a first round guy again? Probably yes, especially with Dame and Tatum gone. Will I feel a level of comfort in a 36-year-old, 37-year-old not only maintaining this production but playing enough? I don't think so. So that's when we get to Dynasty Leagues, you get a little bit concerned about it. Like, has he got one more top 15 year in him? Let's say two more top 30 years? How do you want to view that? Or it is possible that he never has a top 20 season again, and we do get a decline. He is at that absolute apex top 10 player of all time level where decline phases come much slower than they do for others. So he's got that going in his favor. Favor. And we just need to appreciate, honestly, the brilliance that is Steph Curry. We're going to talk about Jim, Draymond, Looney, all the rest of the older Warriors coming up. But first of all, today's episode is brought to you by a brand new sponsor, Olipop. It is a new kind of soda. It's made for people who love the classic taste of sodas but want something that supports their health. It's got between just 2 to 5 grams of sugar, 9 grams of prebiotic fiber in every can. Olipop is reimagining soda in a way that is better for your gut. Old sodas, traditional sodas, they're just full of sugar, like up to 40 grams or close to 40 grams of sugar. If you don't know what a gram is, it's a lot, right? It's not quite an ounce. What is an ounce? I think is an ounce 30 grams? I think it might be. Anyway, that doesn't matter. 39 grams of sugar in a regular Coke. There's 44 grams in an orange Fanta. Olipop flips that script with just a fraction of the sugar and no artificial sweeteners, and also the gut-friendly ingredients like OliSmart, a blend that is shown to support digestive and overall health. It's a soda that tastes like the real thing, but actually does something good for your body. They've got great flavors as well. A cherry cola, classic grape, maybe their own Dr. Goodwin, which is their Dr. Pepper dupe. And I'll be honest with you, Dr. Pepper, not a flavor for me, but for many, I know it is. So get a free can of Olipop. Just buy any 2 cans in a store and they reimburse you for one. Head to drinkolipop.com/lockedonnba and you can claim your free can and you can find where you can get Olipop near you. That is drinkolipop, which is olipop.com/lockedonnba. Okay, we're talking Golden State Warriors, we talked Steph, and now we're going to talk about the guy who was a pain in my assholes all season long, Jim Butler III. I had heard that Jimmy Butler and Miami were on a rocky spot back in February of 24. I was very cautious about considering Jimmy Butler as any sort of fantasy draftable target. A, because he gets hurt a lot. B, because he is unreliable. C, because he is 36 years of age. And D, because there was talk that he would reject or he would request a trade from the Heat. He requested a trade from the Heat, yeah. And then he acted like a petulant asshole for the majority of the season. And refused to turn up. And was late on purpose. And would get suspended. And would create just a general sourness in the locker room. And his play was terrible. And he got his way. He got traded. He got an insane extension, which is going to pay him like $66 million when he's 37 years of age and will be the worst contract in the NBA. But when he got to Golden State, he's not prime Jimmy Butler, a guy that you could argue was a top 15 fantasy guy. Of course, he's not that. But he was better. The 34th ranked player post-trade deadline, 66th before. He ended up averaging 36 fantasy points for the season. Now, he is old. He played 55 games. He also played only 32 minutes for the season because, again, a lot of nonsense happening to begin the year with the Heat, as he was, doing his best to be as unpalatable as possible and get himself out of it. And again, it worked. Jimmy is also one of these guys where there's a lot of garbage to always cut through in terms of narrative. Playoff Jimmy, this guy who's this great teammate, and he's a winner and all this sort of stuff. Of course, he's won exactly 0 rings. Oh, but he took a bad team to the finals. Cool. Butler played 33 minutes a night in Golden State. So that 32-minute number there is, okay, it's relatively reflective of his overall numbers. 18, 5.5, and 5.5 with 1.4 steals, 50 and 84. He's never going to be a good three-point shooter. I'm pretty sure we're all aware of that. One thing that I will note is that part of Jimmy Butler's appeal in previous seasons where he went 1.8, 1.6, 2.1, 1.8 steals in a row, right? They're all obviously great steal numbers. This season, he averaged just 1.4 steals. I will tell you this, though. In Miami, 1.1. In Golden State, when he tried, 1.7. So, are the numbers that Jimmy Butler put up, and his scoring was similar, 18 versus 17. That wasn't that different between the two locations. 5 assists in Miami, 6 in Golden State. So if we look at Jimmy Butler as a 6 assist, 33-minute player with 1.7 steals, averaging 18 points, and that's where you get that 34 ranked player from, that's interesting. Is there more on top of that? I don't think so. But he is going to be someone who I think a lot of people will be scared away from. Rightfully so, you should be. And you shouldn't be looking at him as, well, he's a third-round player, I'll take him in round 3. No. But if you look at overall season numbers from Jim, you need to be focused more on the Golden State portion of this and understand that he is a third-round player, I think. Could sneak into the back end of second, probably third, though. But given his lower body injury history, I'm not worried about him completely cracking the shits and asking out of Golden State this season. That'll be the year after. But given the injury considerations, I don't think I would take him until around 50-ish. Outside the top 50 would be my guess. Understanding that when I do that, there is the risk of absence, but I do feel good that he will be a pretty locked in, let's say close to top 30. Third round, close to top 30 sort of a player. Darko's numbers didn't like him. They thought his impact dropped off, and that's fair because he was terrible in Miami. But he was close enough to old Jimmy when he was in Golden State. So a tough one to get your head around, and there'll be a lot of people saying never Jimmy, and I understand that. And I think there'll be enough of a groundswell of never Jimmy that might push his ADP into the 70s. And that'll be the spot where I go, whoa, that almost can't go wrong. I mean, it could if he plays 10 games or 40 games. But even then, you sacrifice your 7th pick. Who cares? Because the numbers in Golden State, significantly better. Let's talk about Draymond Green. Another old player on this team who often you'll find him in the hundreds in drafts nearly all the time. In fact, let me have a look. What was his ADP this season? 100.6. I had him ranked at 62 in the preseason. He ended up ranked 72nd. Points leagues, he's always going to be about 30 spots behind. He was 99th at averaging 30 fantasy points. He played just 29 minutes with low usage. How does Draymond bring fantasy value when he's bad at field goals, bad at free throws, bad at three-pointers? How does he bring it? It's very easy. 6 rebounds, 5.6 assists, 1.5 steals, 1 block. He hits 1.2 threes. It just brings those categories. Now, for some of you, it will mean absolutely nothing, and there's no interest in that for fantasy because that's not the sort of stats that you're looking for. And he works realistically in 2 sort of teams. You've either got to be a team that's loaded up incredibly heavily on scoring early on, or you're a team that punts points. And his small scoring and negative percentages don't impact you that much. He is younger than Jimmy and Steph. He's still 35. But given the fact that age has robbed him of a lot of stuff already, and we saw that last season, and he was still this good, not really concerned about him having a gigantic drop-off. Yeah, he tried to insert himself into the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. He shouldn't have been in there. He was still very good defensively. His block numbers have declined, and he doesn't block that many shots as he used to. But there's no reason to me, or maybe that's not true. Maybe there is a small reason where I look at those assist numbers that Draymond put up and think that, okay, with Steph and Jimmy a whole season, does his numbers decline in the assist area as the season goes on? Because his assists have steadily declined. 8.9, 7.0, 6.8, 6.0, 5.6. It is also the first time in 3 years that he's had genuinely good steal numbers. He'd been at 1 steal a game versus 1.5. And you know what we say about steals, that they are highly variable. So if he goes from 1.5 steals to 1.1, then he is probably more as an 80th ranked player sort of a guy. So be aware that that can easily flip. And that's one of those things that did really drive a lot of the stuff. He was the 51st ranked player post-trade deadline. Again, a little bit of the Jimmy Butler impact. He passed a lot still. The assist numbers are strong, but I'm not sure they hold at 5.6. I think they could fall. So while I was pretty sort of spot on with Draymond heading into this season, I won't have him there coming up this season. I won't have him around that 72 mark. I think I'm more likely to have him 85 to 90, maybe even in the hundreds for category leagues because I worry that the steals may fall. I worry the assists may come down. He is another year older, and all that stuff adds up, as I think we know. They're the main 3 guys. And after this, there's not that many key fantasy contributors because we're talking about Kevon Looney, who has been around forever and still isn't even 30 years of age. He's 29. He's an unrestricted free agent, as we said, 4.5 points a game, 6 rebounds. He shot 40% from 3, but that's on like one attempt. He was the 253rd ranked player. He played 15 minutes a night. His time as their starting center is gone, but Steve Kerr, the foreseeable future legend, is going to go back and forth in this stuff all the time. Having Quinton Post out there alongside Draymond and Jimmy is so useful because of that shooting. And there are times they'd try Kuminga out there. Do they start Draymond as a full-time small ball center with Steph, Pajemski, Jimmy? Like, there's a lot of ways they can go. I feel good that they will try and bring Looney back. And I also feel good that he has no shot of starting or really being all that fantasy relevant. He's still like a big man who usually is able to get steals. He didn't get them much this season. And he only played 15 minutes. So while we've had moments of, Looney might be an interesting player to try at certain times, we're past that, even though he's only 29. The fit with him as a 25-minute a night starting center doesn't make sense with Draymond and Jimmy. And he is just going to fill that reserve role, I'm guessing. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. And with the NBA Finals in full swing, every night can deliver highlight-worthy performances or major momentum shifts and can't miss moments. It might be a game-winning shot, a big defensive play, a blowout, who knows what it is. But there's never been a better time to get in on the action, and FanDuel makes it easy to stay in on the game. Before tip-off and live during the game, you can player props, you can do same-game parlays, more ways than ever to play smart and to win big. And when you get that read, you're watching the game, you're focusing, you're narrowing your gaze down, and you go, hey, I can see this guy's cooking. Maybe I'll jump in with a live player prop or a same-game parlay and try and get in on that action, live bet the game. You could do all that on FanDuel, and if you're new on there, well, the $200 bonus bets, all you got to do is hit your first $5 bet, and then you get the $200 in bonus bets. So if you are new to FanDuel, go ahead and sign up. It's the perfect time. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA, and don't forget to gamble responsibly. All right, let's wrap up the rest of these Golden State Warriors and their over 27 players. We just did Kevon Looney, and now we've got to do Buddy Hield, who amazingly is 32. Now, yes, it was very humorous, Jimmy Butler and Buddy Hield's ongoing same team trash talk during the playoffs. But some of the stuff that Jimmy said is why Buddy Hield is a frustrating player. It's like, bro, why are you in the wrong spot? What are you doing? Do you see how dumb Buddy is? Like, that's basically what Jimmy was saying. And I think he may have actually said those words. And Hield is one of those guys that, I'm sure if you listen to this show, you're well aware of this by now, but he will trick people all the time. Oh my God, Buddy, we've got to grab him. He's a top 50 fantasy guy. Look at him, he's cooking, he's unbelievable. Why would this team let him go? Oh, that's why. And it happened this season. He shot like 70% from 3 for about the first 2 weeks, and ended the season as the 260th ranked player. He goes from in and out of the rotation, in and out of starting. He still remains a good 3-point shooter. And of course, his Yahoo total 9-cat rank is 105th, which, of course, 100% accurately describes how Buddy Hield's season went. He hit 2.5 threes. But that's the end of the good. And this is one of these things with these players. You'll notice his drip delta, Darko delta, really low because he declined a lot as a player. He's a low volume player who's not a good defender. When you're this sort of a player who doesn't pass, doesn't rebound, doesn't defend, doesn't get to the line, doesn't do anything apart from shoot threes, you've got to hit him better than 37%. And that's what he hit him at. Remember, he started off shooting 70% from 3. You have to be Luke Kennard. You have to hit 43% of them. And yeah, there is a threat with Buddy Hield out there. He takes a lot of threes. That's important. But if you're not elite level knocking them down, and he wasn't, your usefulness isn't there. The 2.5 threes is solid. That's useful for fantasy leagues. But remember, in an average 12-team league, 2 threes a game is the average number. He had 11 points and 3 rebounds, 0.8 steals, 42 from the field. He played 23 minutes. He had 21 usage. And no, he wasn't just poorly used by this team and the previous team and the previous team and the previous team and the previous team. This is just who he is as a player. He is an infuriating guy in terms of what he does as a player. He's hot and cold. He makes plenty of mistakes. And he does one thing, and that is shoot. And he can't do that well enough to justify big minutes. So any sort of he's 32. Any sort of long-term value you might ascribe to Buddy Hield, just go ahead and get rid of that because it's not going to happen. Gary Payton, another one of the Steve Kerr favorites. A guy that seems perennially injured, whether it's legs or core or hernia, which is core. But he finds his way back in. He'll find his way to start games. He'll find his way to put up steals, and he'll get hurt again. He's one of these weird guards who's a high field goal percentage and steals player. He averaged 6 points, though. He was 279th over the course of the season. He's 15 minutes. He's 32, Gary Payton. And he will also have those little runs where they push Gary to 25 minutes and you get 2 steals a game for 3 games. You go, do we really have to lean into Gary Payton? And the answer is nearly always no. He's going to be a streamable sort of player for defensive stats. He's still absolutely elite in terms of defensive coverage and being able to guard multiple positions. But his body, even more so than Alex Caruso and Jalen Suggs, those other 2 high-level defensive guards, his body cannot handle it. I think he'll be back. I'm pretty sure that he'll re-sign minimum contract, whatever it is, in Golden State. He'll generate his steals, 0.8 steals in 15 minutes. That's 1.6 per 30. Like that's very good. And he'll continue to do nothing else in the other areas. And he will be a very good 2-point finisher, 57% overall. But for our fantasy purposes, it's not going to mean much. Speaking of not meaning much, Jackson Rowe is a player that's on this team. Sorry to Jackson. 2-way contract guy. Again, would you have known that Jackson Rowe and Taron Armstrong were the 2-way contract guys on this team? I'm going to suggest probably not. He played under 50 minutes for the season. He's 28 years of age. I don't really know why he was signed to be on that 2-way deal. And I'm honestly just really mentioning him because he's on the team and I need to do that. The 0.7 steals in 9 minutes is an incredibly high number. But is Jackson Rowe that player? I don't think so. 93rd percentile deflections, but we're talking about the smallest of the smallest sample sizes. So Jackson Rowe's a player. He exists. He plays for the Warriors. Pat Spencer's a little bit more interesting. We actually saw him play real rotation minutes during the year. I don't know if he can ever develop into Steph Curry's primary backup. I don't know. But, we saw situations where D'Anthony Melton got hurt earlier in the season. Schroeder was struggling. We saw Spencer getting minutes. He played just 6 minutes a game, though, across 39 games. He's a free agent. I think he'll be back. There were some positives there, but bro's 29. He shot 23% from 3. He still didn't get big minutes. And while there were occasional flashes from Spencer, I don't think that it's anything that's going to really get us excited. Nor do I think that talking much about Braxton Key needs to be a part of this. Key sort of floated around, been in Denver, been in Detroit. Another one of those guys that you feel like, he's, maybe he's a little bit young. No, he's not. He's actually 28 now. He played just under 15 minutes total for the season. And just another one of these guys that when we talk about what the hell is going on at the back end of the Golden State Warriors roster, he's one of those guys there. He did get some minutes in the playoffs for some God knows what reason. And I don't think Braxton Key is going to be back on this team. That would be my guess. And that is the Golden State Warriors. The over 27s. Tomorrow we'll come back and talk about Podziemski, Kuminga, Moody, Jackson Davis, Post, all of those guys and their fantasy value, redraft, and dynasty. Guys, that's the end of the show. So, give it a thumb. Give it a subscribe. Give it one of your infamous double bangs. And I'll be back with more stuff later on today. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.